Hey folks, with us today, Matt, founder of Prism.fm. Super happy to have you on.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Let's start with the most important thing. What does Prism solve for its users?
Well, our users are people in the talent buying and concert ecosystem. So anyone who professionally organizes concerts could theoretically be a customer of Prism, and it helps us. It helps them stay organized, generate contracts, keep track of their financials, run financial reports, and then plan every single detail of an event. And there's a lot of tedious details at that.
Yeah, and so it's basically like an all-in-one, like a bundled solution for them, or does it like solve, quote unquote, just a couple use cases?
It's an all-in-one solution. Yeah.
Got it. I would love to dig deeper on that because the compound startup, as some people call it, is just a super intriguing thing for me because I think everybody's overwhelmed. They're just like having dozens of tools. Before starting that company, what was the insight that pushed you towards doing that? Because it's quite the opposite of like the regular startup advice of like go one after one specific thing. And you were at Techstars before, so you were the newbie to startups even before getting going. So take me through that.
Yeah, well, I guess in college I taught myself how to code, and then I started launching companies, and the most success that I had was in the live music space. I had launched a company in the live music industry, and probably a story for another time. But I just started getting asked to do projects in the live music industry, and I built a festival system to help people plan festivals, and then I actually started my own festival as a way to kind of like use the own technology. And I was just young and scrappy, and like, oh, well, let me just start a music festival out of nowhere. So when I started the festival, I accidentally started like a concert promotion business. By doing that, a lot of people just started asking me to book their venue, and Austin has a thriving live music ecosystem. So I found myself booking a lot of venues in and around Austin. So I got the experience of actually being a business operator and doing the work that I would eventually solve for. And yeah, I mean, I think the light bulb went off is when I saw that other promoters and venue owners and festival organizers were all using the same spreadsheet system to manage their business, and I knew that I could create a software system to kind of make that better. And yeah, you're right. It was a year build out before we launched, and that's not typically prescribed. It's like, oh, rapid iteration, launch something in 2 months from now, but I think it's really made us extremely defensible. Like it was risky to spend a whole year in development on something, but like Prism is just way more robust than anything else that's out there. And that's been in our DNA and our foundation. And everyone else that has tried to do what Prism does is like trying to catch up to the vastness of what we've created. But the vastness is also challenging. Like there's, we're covering like a very wide customer use case, and but I guess that's a double-edged sword. It's hard to support, but it's also hard to compete with, since I found a way to do it really well.
If you need to hire the right developers and ship fast, then React Squad is for you. A boutique agency that specializes in React and only works with fast growth startups. Visit reactsquad.io to learn more.
Yeah. And then, by the way, a side note for later, we might have time to go down the road of how the heck you started creating a festival, but that's maybe for later in the pod if we have the time. Yeah. If I can believe Crunchbase, then you raised like close to 18 million in total. Did you do that because the scope was so huge? Or like take me through like your fundraising journey, because I think like you started in 2017, so I think you saw a lot of things, from like things being frothy to like COVID, which I guess was like very weird for you in your industry, and then to now the tech sector being like in a, not depression, but like in a downturn. So like take us through the whole journey from like the fundraising perspective.
Yeah, we raised 15 million to date, so I think Crunchbase is a little bit off. Yeah, I raised a couple rounds of funding to get off of the ground, and then we raised 2.2 million when things really started working. And this was like 2018 when we raised 2.2 million. So it was like $2 million to get off the ground, 2.2 million when we actually things actually started working. And then right before, then we raised 2.9 million right before the pandemic, and that was a bridge round that really just got out of control. Like a lot of people jumped on it and really liked the business. So I was like, okay, that's exciting. So at that point, we had raised about 5 million, and then the pandemic hit. And the pandemic time was weird because, I mean, you have to, like, this should be a Harvard business case study on like what to do when the government mandates all of your customers to like shut down overnight. Although I'm not really stoked about Harvard these days, so I have to figure out a different word for I don't know, maybe like a Stanford business case study is better. So, but point being is like, holy shit, all of our customers got forced to shut down, and it's like, what the hell do you do with that? And our customers proved to be extremely resilient. They just did what they needed to do to survive, and we actually didn't even churn. We didn't churn a lot of them. Like they kept with
That's
Prism.
crazy.
We found that Prism was one of the last things that they ditched before they before they went out of business. So that was a really interesting stress test. And on one side, Prism was highly, challenged by the pandemic. But on the other side, like we had a lot of positive indicators that were showing that like this was a strong, durable business. And if we can, like we had just kind of pitched to investors, like if we can make it through this, we can make it through anything. And there's a live music industry on the other side of this, curve. So I would say, so we raised about $5.5 million in 2021. And that was when all the mega rounds were going down. And like, I think our business was like, affected enough by the pandemic that it wasn't likely for us to pull off like a $30 or $100 million round of funding or $150 million round of funding, which frankly ended up being a silver lining. But like, I think if it wasn't for a frothy market, like we might have just been able to pull like a bridge or like raise some debt or like, might have had to like really just start cutting aggressively. So the frothy market in 2021 like did allow us to raise, a meaningful round of funding. And then we did really well outside of the pandemic, and we kind of did everything that we said we would do. The business really took off after the pandemic, and a lot of our customers who we stuck with during the pandemic were like, "Yeah, we love you, we appreciate you, and we're going to double down with you now." And that all of that traction allowed us to raise. We just closed $5 million. And all of that traction allowed us to close $5 million on this round of funding, during a really hard time to raise. And I think that's because we're, practically default alive, though we're not like optimizing for profitability. Like we're solving a real customer use case. Like we're not servicing tech companies right now. We're servicing like real world operators. Not that tech companies aren't real world operators, but you have a lot of like the snake eating the snake in the tech industry right now. Like a lot of the companies that are hurting right now were folks that were servicing tech companies, and it's like a double. Not only is the tech sector hurting and money's not going into the tech sector, like they're not buying as many licensees on their software systems because they're like cutting back. But for us, our customers are just doing better than ever right now, honestly. Like inflation has hit them a little bit for sure. But compared to tech companies, my industry is doing just fine. So it was a tightrope walk to fundraise through COVID, and then to fundraise in the worst tech recession since 2008, maybe even worse since 2008. But hey, I'm very grateful to be here. Yeah.
I mean, I think we both have quite more career ahead of us compared to like behind us. So I think it's a good thing to live through. take me through how the company is structured right now. I'm not sure why I'm like a nerd for org charts. So like, how big is the team? What's the split? Tell me everything.
Yeah, we have we're like very much heavy on product and engineering. We have 17 on product engineering, 6 on go-to-market, and 3 on customer success. We're investing a lot in go-to-market now. Like we're kind of progressively making some hires in product engineering, but very much it's like, all right, like we really want to test like a robust go-to-market team and see if we can really like, double, triple, quadruple our current market share.
Is there a split you want to end up with? Like a lot of people I talk to end up with like a 50-50 split of like product engineering being, of course, like the one half, and then marketing, either marketing heavy or sales heavy, and like a third is usually CS. So do you have like a split in mind? Because in a way, I mean, you got like 5 million of fresh funding. So you're forced to really think like a capital allocator at that point. So how do you do that? Because in a way, it's not only the operator head, but also like the capital allocator head. So take me through that.
Yeah, I mean, I am a product person, and I really love building product-led companies. And I'm always curious about if I were to run the experiment of like investing in nothing but the product and technology, and just letting like sales happen. Having enough sales and customer support infrastructure just to kind of like handle inbounds. I'm curious about what that play of reality would be. But like with that being said, I think I've started to look at go-to-market strategy as a part of the engineering team, and without getting ourselves out there aggressively and getting people to use the system, like what really guides what we should build. And I think, I believe in some sort of a middle ground between like being extremely product engineering led, but also like getting yourselves out there and knowing that like having very good customers and very good customer success is a part of a great engineering org. So in the end, I want to be slightly, like the majority of our company, I think, should be directly working on the product engineering team, and then have a close relationship to a well-balanced sales and CS org. So maybe between sales, marketing, and CS, it'll be like anywhere from 40 to 50% of the total org. And then engineering and product is, 60 to 65% of the total org. Or I guess that math doesn't add up, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. You just said that in your mind, engineering and product is basically part of the GTM strategy. Are you talking about like the typical quote unquote PLG thing, or like how do you look at that?
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the acronym PLG.
Sorry, product-led growth, meaning like, is that basically where you just say, hey, we do the self-serve thing, or like how do you use engineering to actually like drive new revenue?
Yeah, some of it is typically product-led growth and just having the best product and having a reputation amongst our customers that we actually solve things, and it's extremely important. And like that product development is extremely important to us, but then we also do have things built into the system that like there's network effects inherently built into Prism. Like, if a talent agency is using Prism, the people who represent the bands, and the venue is using Prism, there is an enhanced benefit that they receive. And that leads to inbound leads. Like, agencies are saying, hey, like you're sending me these funky spreadsheets. Like it's so much easier to work. It would be so much easier to work with you if you were using Prism. Like, here's their contact. You should get in touch with them. So productizing that experience where the product is actually generating business for us is really, important as well.
Such a strong loop there.
Yeah.
Let's completely switch gears away from like the product and like the day-to-day, more to like your journey as a founder. What did you learn from starting a festival that works out well in terms of like your day-to-day in running a typical tech company? I'm super curious if there like some overlap of like skills or learnings on that.
Yeah, thank you. Good question. I think just actually operating the business just allowed me to speak the language and I think it was genuine that I can go to it's genuine that I can go to customers and say, like, I built this because I firsthand experienced the pain. And I don't think everyone needs to do that, but in this industry, there's a lot of like kind of distrust of outsiders. And for the little bit of experience that I had actually doing it myself, like I was not viewed as an outsider. So one of it is perception, and the other one of it is reality. Like I think Prism was a very hard problem to solve. It still is, in terms of like really discerning what we need to build, how we need to build it, like what's absolutely crucial and what's not. Like right before this, I just got off a call with a customer where, they were listing things that we don't quite do yet inside of Prism that they want us to do. And my ability to say, you know what, like in tech, there's a lot of people who say, hey, okay, I understand you do it this way, but you should really do it this way. And sometimes there's merit to that, but then other times I think that can alienate us from, the actual users of our system. And I think that operating myself has given me the discernment to say, all right, you know what, like I understand that they want to PDF this Excel spreadsheet. They want Prism to spit out a PDF instead of a CSV, and it actually matters for a number of reasons. So I think it's just helped me empathize with my customers much more, and it's given me an edge when I'm actually solving, the tough product problems.
That's amazing. I like the whole. I know the pain in terms of like having having the pain in the prior job. I heard that a ton in the past. But the thing of basically being an insider, I never heard someone like tell it like that. But it makes a ton of sense because it basically builds immediate trust there.
Yep.
Awesome. And then, I mean, it's a fun story with the festival, how you got there, and then like the crazy part of the pandemic and the downturn now. But I mean, it's not always like sunshine and roses. So like, is there any war story you can share? Like just like a rough patch you went through where you really like got pushed?
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic as a whole was really like, I think, and there's a lot of war stories, but when the pandemic first started coming out and I started hearing the word social distancing, it was like, it was so bad for my industry that it was almost funny. And I say that like in all due respect, because people really got tortured by this thing. But like, I'm like, this is the worst kryptonite ever for the live music industry. Like social distancing, like you can't invent a word that's more kryptonite for a concert, right? Like social distancing is the exact opposite of what you want for a concert industry. And it's already an industry that's just filled with mom and pop shops and people riding out thin margins. So, it's so funny because we're so far out of the pandemic now that and we have to just keep moving and and I want to like rest on our laurels of surviving the pandemic, but it really was just like this insane moment of like, I mean, I was talking to my co-founders about like, all right, like, do we still believe in this thing if the whole industry goes to absolute zero? And like we didn't know if we were going to be in the pandemic for 5 years, for 1 year, for 3 years. And it ended up being like something like 2.5 before the music industry really meaningfully kicked back up. But there would have been like deeper and deeper layers of breaking point if this did go 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And it was this like ongoing bet of like, how many am I going to keep doubling down on my bet that this thing's coming back or not? And, keeping my employees inspired, keeping myself inspired, staying close to the industry, and like really just having like, that was a really, really weird time. But we came out of it and raised a giant round, a good round of funding, I'll call it. Not so, giant from my perspective, 5 million, maybe not giant compared to the checks SoftBank was writing. But yeah, I'm very proud of that. And it was a fun, triumphant time.
Was there a specific thing that kept you inspired?
I just thought that I just, once again, all due respect, I thought that there was an opportunity in surviving this thing and that we could come out stronger. And I think my like faith in like God and spirituality really kind of played a role. Like logically, I could understand that if we survived, we would thrive. And I guess, spiritually, I just trusted that there was a reason why I was here, and there was a reason why I started Prism. And I didn't feel like this is the way it was going to go out. It was just something outside of our control was going to crash it down to zero. And at the end of the day, I wanted to continue doing Prism more than anything else. So I just kept doing it.
I think those are amazing words to stop the pod. Matt, thanks a ton for coming on today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
If you like this episode, then you'll love the SaaS Operator, a weekly newsletter brought to you by EarlyNode, with actionable insights from SaaS experts in the industry, delivered right to your inbox every Tuesday for free. Visit earlynode.com to subscribe.